Today is Gaudete Sunday, the Sunday of joy. And you may know this because probably once a year, maybe, someone like me will say, hey, it's Joy Sunday. And everybody goes, great, we probably didn't see that coming. And Gaudete is Latin for joy, and way back when, hundreds of years ago, when they were celebrating Advent, and as it is now, the days are getting shorter and the nights are longer, they did this for like 5 or 6 weeks. And then it was also a time of repentance because God was coming. Christ was going to be born anew. And so they didn't have as much food and they were repenting, and that's really hard work. And they needed a little lift to get them all the way to Christmas. And so they said, well, instead of the darker colors and repentance, let's have a celebration. Let's go pink or rose. And so we have that today in our tradition of lighting our pink candle up here. And traditionally on this third Sunday of Advent, we talk about joy. Does that sound good to you? Joy rather than repentance? Because I could switch back. Good call. All right. Also, I heard something in the congregation when we were reading, when Lisa was reading, because it can be a funny text, this text of you're going to have a kid, and she's like, who, me? And the angel's like, yes, you. And may I just remind you that this is a story, and it is not meant to be science or social science. We tell the story of Mary as a way of lifting up how important she is as the bearer of Christ. And so with that in mind, let us consider her story. 2 weeks ago, Advent 1, I spoke about the difference between hope and optimism. And I'll remind us of that in case some of us weren't here or in case some of us have slept since then. And hope and optimism are not the same things. The crash course is that optimism assumes that the world is and will continue to evolve in positive directions. And this belief often comes from a place of privilege, because if life has been good to you and to yours, you assume this is how life goes. And if you do not find yourself in the nexus of privilege, you are more likely not to use platitudes and look for silver linings. Rather, you may look within and towards others in the community to build the community you need to survive. And I will offer this quote again from Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. Optimism is the belief that the world is changing for the better. Hope is the belief that together we can make the world better. Mary in our story today has no time for optimism. She's facing some really big decisions. She has every right to be afraid. You can imagine that a very young girl becoming a mother might raise some eyebrows in our society. And it was much worse for women 2,000 years ago. For in her day, it was lawful for her to be condemned and killed for being pregnant outside of wedlock. And if she happened to live through that, she would be disowned and abandoned and destined to poverty and begging, because no one would take her into their household and take care of her. Thus, her child would also be homeless and impoverished. So what are the odds that as Mary is weighing her decision, she was optimistic, such as, my friends' fathers aren't so into stoning, this will be fine. Or poverty isn't so bad, not really. That doesn't sound right, does it? Mary knew the world as it was, and instead of expressing a naive faith, she expresses caution and concern. She questions authority. How can this be? How can I be a mom? I'm way too young for this. Mary digs deep, and instead of leaning into the fear, she leans into hope. And in her book, same book we talked from last time, Hope, a User's Manual by author and pastor Mary McKibben Dana, she talks about hope this way. Hope is embodied, or it is nothing at all. She goes on to suggest that hope is something that is lived and experienced in our actions. We cannot think it into being. It is not fearful or avoidant of what's in front of us. Rather, hope can be expressed in and come out of our actions in ways that invite others around us to also have hope. Mary cares for herself and for those around her. She focuses not on the immediate scary thing. I am pregnant and I'm not entirely sure how this happened. Rather, she focuses on perseverance. She hears God's announcements and she focuses on serving others. She focuses on the angel's announcement that she is not alone, for her cousin Elizabeth is also pregnant, and everyone knows that that is a miracle. Mary hears this angel, and she takes stock of her options and decides not to give in to the fear. Instead, she decides to lean into relationship, and she wonders and she hopes that this will be life-giving, not just for herself, not just for her son, but she's not so focused on the possible suffering. Instead, she's thinking about God's bigger plan. And that's why she tells the angel, and this is my translation, okay, let's do this. And with her whole body, Mary steps forward to go and connect with her cousin. And in so doing, she becomes quite literally embodied hope. Hope incarnate, hope in the flesh. She steps forward when she had every reason to freeze or run in the other direction or just melt into the carpet because there's an angel in front of her. But part of being a person of faith is that we practice hope. We embody it because we want to be ready for if and when that angel comes in front of us or if we hear a call. We want to be ready. And it reminds me of this silly story I heard, which said that once there was a village preparing for the long winter. And they had received a wonderful growing season, and the harvest was plentiful. And about a third of the villagers were optimistic. At some point, they said, we think we have enough for the winter, and we're going to be fine, so we don't need to work and harvest anymore. And another third of the villagers, people prone to despair, thought, we're all going to die this winter anyway, so there's no reason to keep harvesting. And then a third of the villagers were people who had hope. And they did not know if this would be a hard winter, and so they did not know if they had enough. And even though they may die today or tomorrow or years from now, they didn't know exactly when that was going to happen. And so they said, hey, let's go to the fields and harvest and just see what comes. And in this village, you may have noticed that only those with hope are going to survive that hard winter that's coming. They are the ones who looked a little further out and do not claim to have all of the answers. They're the ones who keep working on the off chance that this harvest might come in handy for themselves and for others. And all of the optimists and the pessimists, those who despair, came up a little short. Hope is not about feeling good and optimistic about what is to come, nor is it about feeling badly and afraid about what might come or what might not. Hope is about abundant life and positioning ourselves to be ready, whatever may come. So whether we have a tendency towards optimism or fear, we are not alone. We all have Marys and Elizabeths and Josephs and donkeys and others in our life, in our families and in our neighborhoods and in our churches and in other organizations that we're part of. People who know that hope is an action. Hope is embodied, or it's nothing at all. It is something we practice, stepping forward, joining hands, tending our lives both spiritually and physically, so that we can build the muscle of holding on to hope. And as our author also said, hope doesn't get easier. You just get stronger. And we all know that Mary and Elizabeth have a lot of time to practice, which is good because they have a lot coming at them. And their sons are going to pull them into directions that they cannot even imagine today. But yet, they can make the world better. And they do. And they lean into hope. And may we do the same thing. May we lean into God's vision, not just for us, but for our world. And hold on to one another and practice hope and flex our muscles so that we might live into being embodied hope for ourselves and for those around us. May it be so.